Thank you. I didn't know I was going to be first. So my wife Chris and I have known Linda since 1996. We moved into a duplex next door to them in Windsor, and we got to meet Joshua and Jacob when they were very, very young, and now they're not, so that makes me feel really old right now. But, we were in kind of a different place at that point, and I was trying to find myself as a man and a husband and a father, and my wife was just trying to find her way through life. Had a lot of questions, and we just happened to have the perfect person living right next door to introduce Jesus Christ into my wife's life, and we're still very thankful to this day for that. And then we moved on to go back to Europe in the military, and through those years we found out that Linda had found a wonderful man in her life named Michael, who we hadn't met yet, so we were pretty skeptical because we hadn't approved of him at that point. So we ended up moving back to the United States in 2004, and we got to meet Michael for the first time. And you're right, he was like this Kenny Rogers type individual. And, I read the obituary the other day, and there were not too many things that surprised me out of there, except for the one about where it said he was a backup bear hunter. And I don't know if any of you knew that. I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me either. So to me, he was kind of like a domesticated version of Grizzly Adams. Yeah. That's probably the best way to describe him, because he loved adventure, but at the same time he was very well aware of where he was supposed to be in life at any moment, and that's kind of what drew me to him. He was a very, very cool cat in that respect, and I had a lot of respect for him in that. And the other thing I could see was I could totally see him primping some woman's hair during the day and then getting on a motorcycle and then driving someplace and having a joyride, because that just fit everything about his personality. The guy was comfortable in anything. So him and I hit it off pretty much immediately, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was in the military at the time, and of course him having some of his best memories during the time that he was in the military, and so him and I kind of had a pretty special connection that way. And I think sometimes he lived a little vicariously through me, because I know that we had talked a few times about how much he wishes sometimes he would have retired from the military. And so he had a very keen interest in what was going on in my and my wife's life and all of our children, and the different places that we were going and the things we were doing. And so we would use that usually as whenever we would meet up again, we would use that as the topic to kind of keep things moving and to start it off wherever we were from the last time we talked. And he ended up being in many ways a kind of a second father for me. Excuse me. And he had a very special connection with my wife, Chris, because she's very energetic. I think that's the political way to put it. She's very energetic, and she's a very happy person, and Michael was very much of the same spirit, and so they really enjoyed kind of ribbing each other and going after each other that way. But what he did was he showed me some things at the time when I most needed it, and that was how to be a strong person without having to not necessarily show it in a way to where people had to recognize it, but they would recognize it because you just were. And he showed me what it was like to be a man that didn't fear taking a chance and failing, because there were times in my life where I could have made more out of the opportunities that I had, and he would talk to me about how if you don't take those opportunities, you're never going to know. And even if you fail, it just provides a new opportunity for you. and so I really took that to heart. And the last probably 15 so years, I've definitely tried to take more opportunities with the expectation to fail and then find something beautiful out of that to make a new opportunity. He also gave me some new characteristics to follow as a leader, not only in my own home, but when I was supervising other soldiers. Being an example first. You can't ever expect anything out of anybody else if you're not able to do it yourself first. So if I couldn't do it myself, I would never expect it out of anybody else. Michael's spiritual path had a lot of rocks in it, and it definitely wasn't straight, but it was made for an exciting walk, and I think he wouldn't have had it any other way. Some of the things that he went through in his life ended up allowing him to do some things and speak to people in a way he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And I think he really greatly appreciated that. He never forgot where he came from, good and bad, and that helped him when he was realizing where he was headed. He wanted to make sure he was able to teach others but still learn at the same time. And his love for you was really only matched by his love for his Father in heaven. And he had made a lasting impression in a lot of people's lives. And just as Michael did not fear life and what it would bring, in the end, he did not fear everlasting life either, and what that also had in store for him. The unknown of this world is one thing, but to be assured of how the greatest adventure will end up before any of us ever begins is something totally different. But even while knowing this, I'm pretty sure Michael will be the same fun-loving, self-deprecating, and adventurous child he was here on Earth. I remember one time when we came and visited him when he was having some of his toes removed. And I asked him, how did he feel about that? And he said, well, let's just hope nobody ever asks me to count to 20. So, even in the darkest times, he had a joke, right? So, yeah. And, so because of that, I won't say, may you rest in peace, Michael, because you were never like the rest, and you always knew the Prince of Peace. And so, I just would like to thank Michael for sharing himself with my family, and Semper Fi, my friend.
I believe someone, yes.
Well, this was sort of a last-minute decision, and my husband, I think, is a little bit surprised. My name's Carla Opsahl, and Linda had sent us a text about a week ago wanting to know if Eric would like to speak. And liking to speak and being able to speak are two different things. And with Eric having served in the military for 26 years, and having been to Vietnam, they had a special connection. We met Michael and Linda at a class. It wasn't a was it counseling? Did we need counseling?
We did.
Okay. Well, that wasn't in the notes. But the VA had a class, and after a certain amount of time too, we learned that we could bring snacks to the class too, so that helped. But we met Michael and Linda there, and it was an opportunity for the veteran to share in maybe a safer forum, I guess, to say things, I think, out loud that they weren't necessarily able to say to their spouses, to their wives. Usually, I think most of the veterans there had been men. Is that true? I don't think there were any females. Anyway, and then, so sometimes we were hearing for the first time, what they were going through, and then we got to sort of respond on how we hadn't understood, and everybody kind of could apologize to the other and all. And at the time I remember thinking, well, first of all, they seemed to be the youngest couple there, and this was in 2007, I guess. And so at some point when I realized, everybody else seemed older and crabbier, and I thought, okay, it might be kind of fun to have coffee with afterwards. So we just sort of forced ourselves on them and asked them if they'd like to go out for coffee. Sure. And it just sort of took off from there, and we didn't have the fishing and motorcycle connection, so I don't know how we lasted, unless it was because of the Packers and the military. Yeah. And yes, and that too. We do share that, and I know with my own family, the thing that always breaks your heart the most, it's not their lack of money or their lack of position or lack of job, is that they don't know Christ, they don't know God, and that's what usually eats at you. But on the other side of the coin, the envious thing I had when I found out was the fact that Michael cut and colored her hair. And I thought, okay. So that was sort of the side we saw Michael, but yeah, the wit, the twinkle, the love, and sometimes when they'd come over, I was almost afraid of what question he was going to ask, if I was going to have the right answer to whatever. But he will be certainly greatly missed too. And we love Linda, and now she and I as grandmas get to share our grandkids, Josie and I. Is that Joshua? Joan. I'm sorry.
We are.
Yeah,
Lots of J's.
another J. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I take mine over there, and she and I drink soda, and the kids do whatever the kids do. But yeah, he will be missed, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. And again, he and Eric shared a lot that we will never know, never ever know. So God bless you all.
And I get the peaches.